Hi there, it's day 26 of your reset. It's Friday, and today we're talking about a deficiency which so many people in the world are suffering from at the moment with huge impacts on their health, and that is vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D is essential for our health and well-being, and the best way that we can obtain it is from the sunshine, but unfortunately most people are not receiving enough sunshine. Just in case you've stumbled across this video and on YouTube and you don't know what I'm talking about, you can click on the link in the video notes below, and that will take you across the page on my website, which explains everything about this 31-day detox and reset following the model of primal health, ancestral health, and the paleo diet. So let's get into it. Vitamin D. For vitamin D, we need sunshine. What kind of skin pigment do you have? Do you have dark skin or do you have light skin? And given that the amount of sun exposure that we need to synthesize vitamin D depends upon our skin pigment, it's really important to know how much we need to be getting, okay? And yes, as I just said, unfortunately, most people are not receiving enough. Now, vitamin D in the sun, the synthesis of vitamin D from sunlight has been a part of our DNA since the very beginning of evolution, right? Now, 350 million years ago, it allowed simple cellular creatures to become more complex. Yeah, it was the sunshine that allowed these simple cellular creatures that to develop skeletons and to leave the sea onto and to leave the sea and form a life on the land, and so we have this in our DNA right from the very beginning of time. And in addition to being necessary for the construction, the maintenance of bones and tissues, vitamin D is essential for our immune system. Okay, so what's vitamin D? Technically, vitamin D is not a vitamin, but it's a precursor hormone. It's fat soluble, and it's stored in our fat cells, which means that we can use the stored vitamin D in the future. In the future. It plays a central role in metabolizing calcium. That's pretty well known, I think. It improves the assimilation of important nutrients such as vitamin A and vitamin C. It strengthens the immune system. It improves cardiac neurological functions and genetic expression. And it ignites about 2,000 genes. It increases the levels of hormones that make you feel good, such as the beta endorphins and serotonin. That's why everyone feels happy and fantastic in summer. And it regulates cell growth and renewal. And in particular, it's very, very important for the expression of the p53 gene. It's indispensable for the expression of the p53 gene. So what's the p53 gene? The p53 gene directs millions of cell replicas daily. It informs them of when something has gone wrong and what they need to do to stay healthy. Right? Now, p53 is important for the process of apoptosis, which is the natural self-destruction of damaged cells before they become malignant. Right? That this is so important. I'm going to repeat it. The p53 is important for apoptosis, which is the natural self-destruction of damaged cells before they become malignant. In the absence of vitamin D, p53 will shut down, which increases the risk of cancer. Okay, now over the past 100 years, we've not only drastically reduced our exposure to the sun, but we're kind of afraid of it now. Yeah, lathering our skin with sunscreen has become the norm for partaking in outdoor activities, and as a result there's a huge increase in health problems related to vitamin D deficiency. While excessive sun exposure might present a risk, there's no evidence that links moderate sun exposure to any type of skin cancer. For every skin cancer diagnosis attributed to excessive sun exposure, there are 55 cancer diagnoses attributed to insufficient vitamin D. We don't need gallons of sunscreen. Yeah? Every Homo sapiens has an ancient DNA which evolved under the sun and which provides us with an inbuilt protection against excess UVA solar radiation. And this inbuilt protection is called melanin. Now, melanin determines the natural coloring of our skin, hair, and eyes. So the darker our complexion, the more melanin pigment we possess. Our pigmentation determines the amount of vitamin D we synthesize. All right, so light-skinned people can synthesize vitamin D very quickly, but they need to be careful not to burn. Right? But people with dark skin need more time to produce optimal amounts of vitamin D. So tanning, right? Tanning is therefore our natural self-regulating system on how much ultraviolet light we absorb. Light-skinned people should start cultivating a tan in the springtime so as to minimize the risk of sunburn by midsummer. And for darker-skinned people who live far away from the equator, the lack of sufficient sun exposure puts them at risk for serious health problems. So African American people have a much higher risk of cancer than those with pale skin. And that goes for people of African descent, throughout Europe and dark-skinned people who live far away from the equator. It's an issue. It's a big issue. So how much sunshine do we need? Moderate sun exposure means 10 to 20 minutes of direct sunlight every day over a large area of the body. Okay, so sunbathing in a swimsuit is perfect. During spring and autumn, the early morning and late afternoon sun is not enough for vitamin D production, and the best times are between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. Another way of assessing moderate sun exposure is to stay out into the sun for half the time it takes to sustain a slight sunburn, right? So we don't want to get sunburnt. We're not saying to stay out for too long. We're talking about moderate sun exposure. When we can't expose large areas of the body to the sun, we'll continue to receive benefits through the arms and through the hands, because that's sort of quite a large surface area. It's okay to protect our face and our neck, because these areas don't have a large enough surface area to contribute significantly. So vitamin D, fat, food and supplements. Vitamin D and fat. Because vitamin D is fat soluble, it's stockpiled in our fat cells. So if you establish and maintain a good tan from spring to autumn, this should be adequate for getting through the darker months with little sunshine. It does depend on where you live, yeah? So latitudes far from the equator, so places like Paris in France and the border of the United States and Canada, for example, places like that receive adequate sunlight for good vitamin D production for only about a quarter of the year. So we need to be aware also about, where we're living. Vitamin D in foods. Some foods contain vitamin D. So when Homo sapiens migrated to the northern regions of the planet, their diet, which was rich in fat derived from fatty fish and marine mammals, provided them with the vitamin D they needed to thrive, even with very little sun. So wild salmon and mackerel and herring and cod liver oil and eggs, they all provide between 2 and 1,000 IU in one serving. And yes, for those who can't spend much time in the sun, vitamin D supplements are essential, but nothing compares to the sun. A capsule or drops of vitamin D might dispense like 2,000 IU, but just 10 to 20 minutes in the sunshine, exposing about half the body surface, will provide, between 2,000 and 4,000. So if you're out in the sun in summertime for 30 minutes, you're going to be producing around 10,000. Yeah. But it's not just about the quantity. It's vitamin D from the sun is much more bioavailable than supplements. I mean, it makes sense. Yeah. Because it's part of our DNA and it's assimilated better and it lasts much longer. So I do two things to maintain healthy levels of vitamin D. In spring and summer, I do sun therapy. So as often as possible, I put on a bikini, set a timer, and lie in the sun. I sort of build up over time. Because life is busy, you don't sort of have much time to do this stuff. So I quite literally I use a timer. And I'll do 10 to 15 minutes on one side, and then I'll do 10 to 15 minutes on the other. And then I take a spoonful of Zinzino balance oil, which I talked about in the information about omega-3. So I take that omega-3 balance oil once a day, and that's enriched with vitamin D along with antioxidants. So that's what I do. And another way to obtain vitamin D, especially recommended for those with health problems, if you can, if you can do this, a midwinter vacation in a tropical area is a really good idea. So if you have that option, to go somewhere, in midwinter, just to sort of get that boost of of sunshine and vitamin D happening, that's a really good idea. Insufficient vitamin D. It's terrible. Insufficient vitamin D increases the risk of cancer by impairing the function of the P53 gene. It may contribute to cardiovascular disease, cognitive impairment, and kidney difficulties. It impairs the absorption of calcium, an important nutrient such as vitamins A and C. It increases the risk of osteoporosis. It weakens the immune system, weakens neurological function, and weakens genetic expression, right? So have no fear, head outside, absorb a little sunshine every day, and as soon as springtime comes around, just start building up a tan very gradually and get that moderate sun exposure. Okay, so today's Friday. Tomorrow night after dinner, we want to try another intermittent fast. So have a read through that section again. So just as a reminder of what to do, but you remember it's really easy. You just want to stop eating around 8 o'clock. Get up the following morning and see if you can keep going through to midday without eating, and just and be very aware of what's going on in your body. Be very aware of the sensations. Remember, it's never about renunciation or feeling desperately hungry. It's just about feeling empty and being able to ride the little moments of hunger. They should just come and go with no effort. And just see how you go. See if we can go for 16 hours without food, without drama, and without stress. Okay, so the movement recommendation for today is to do a round of the Primal Essential movements, or the 7-minute workout. And there's good exercise for your journaling today, which is to change perspective and change direction. So there's a really nice little reflection there about how we can reframe an obstacle and turn it into something positive and empowering. So that's it for today, and I will see you tomorrow. Ciao.